Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, students. A very good morning to those who are looking for graduate jobs or who are getting ready to apply for graduate jobs here in Australia, because that's what our session is going to be about this morning. It is how to land a graduate job in Australia. My name's James. I'm the candidate coach, and it is great to be with you this morning, coming to you live on September the 21st. It's a Tuesday. We're working our way towards the 70 and 80% double vaccination mark, and hopefully we can get some freedoms back. But for the time being, many Australians are still living in some type of lockdown. So wherever you're logging in and watching from this morning, good morning. It is great to have you with us, and we're hopefully going to have a great session today. So, how to land a graduate job in Australia? Well, we know the graduate recruitment process is very competitive. So, what we're going to look at today is perhaps a little bit of tips from the inside, maybe some unofficial tips. Maybe the things we're going to share with you today are perhaps some of the things that you don't get told all the time. But from my point as a recruiter of 15 years, I think the tips you're going to hear today can make all of the difference in a really competitive process. Alrighty. So just before we kick things off, just a little bit of a workshop housekeeping. We are coming to you live, as I mentioned today, via our YouTube channel. If I drop off for any reason, please stay on the line and wait for me to rejoin. Doesn't happen very often, but when you broadcast 2 or 3 workshops every week throughout the course of the year, you occasionally come across a technical difficulty. So if I drop off, stay where you are and I'll log back on. Feel free to ask questions in the comments box today as we're going along. As I said, this is live. We're not pre-recorded. If you pop a question in there, I'll answer it as we're going. But take lots of notes as well, because often when you're learning something, the way the message is delivered to you and the way you hear it the very first time is really, really powerful. So take lots of notes as we're going along. But you can also watch a replay of today's workshop on our YouTube channel, as you can with any of our other workshops. Just go to YouTube, type in The Candidate Coach, and you should be able to find our YouTube channel. Alrighty, so a little bit about me, your presenter. Who am I? Why am I presenting to you today? Well, as I said, my name is James Whitcomb. My other role, other than being the candidate coach, is I'm a director at Smart Recruitment, which is an agency with a presence in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth. I've been a recruiter since 2005 at Smart Recruitment, so I'm coming up to my 16th year anniversary. And in that time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews. That number could easily be doubled, to be honest, but that's my best estimation, and over 600 group assessments. And yes, I've hired a lot of graduates amongst the 1,000 people that I have placed into work over that period of time. And launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today, in December 2019. Alrighty, let's get stuck in. Type into the comments box so that I know who's in the audience today. I know that some of you can't access the comments box from where you're watching from, but are you planning on applying for a graduate vacancy in the next 12 months? Is that something you're planning on doing at the moment? Now, even for those of you who are watching this who are not planning on applying for a graduate job either in the next 12 months or anytime soon, it doesn't matter, because the tips we're going to share with you today, most of the tips anyway, can be applied to any type of job hunting, but we've put a real graduate twist or flavor onto it. So are you planning on applying for graduate vacancy in the next 12 months? And we've got some yeses in the comments box already, so that's great to see. All right, let's look at a little bit of information. Let's set the scene a little bit here. So according to Grad Australia, based on data across all industries, the average employer reviewed 1,940 graduate applications and filled 59 positions. Now you might think, 59 positions, that's pretty good, 59. But that gives each graduate a 1 in 33 chance of getting hired. 1 in 33. So close to 2,000 jobs, just over 50 graduate applications. Sorry, close to 2,000 applications for just over 50 jobs, which gives you a 1 in 33 chance of getting hired. So my question to you is, how does having a 1 in 33 chance make you feel? If you had to pick from this list of emojis on the screen at the moment, how would this make you feel? Do you feel happy? Do you feel excited? Do you feel a bit nervous? Do you feel a bit worried? Do you feel a bit apprehensive? Do you feel a bit grumpy, as somebody's typed into the comments box there? You have got a 1 in 33 chance of landing a graduate job. So there's two things we can do. There's two things we can do with this type of statistic. We can think, that's really, really bad. 1 in 33, the chances aren't good. Or we can say, no, they're the chances, but I reckon if I do all the right things, I'm going to take it from 1 in 33 to 1 in 5, or maybe even better than that. That's the attitude I want you to have, and that's what I'm going to show you to do today. I'm going to show you how you can improve your chances from being 1 out of 33 to being 1 out of a number that is a lot lower. If I do look like I'm looking over here a lot today, that's because that's where my slides are, and that's my presentation screen. So I'm going to go through with you today. For the rest of the session, we're going to go through 11 job hunting tips in a competitive market specific to looking for graduate work. So I'm not going to go through every single thing that you need to know. For many of you, if you are studying at an education institution in Australia, you do have some access. You do have some access to careers or employment services. But I'm going to give you tips that I think you're not going to hear every day that I think will actually make a really big difference. So let's get stuck in. Tip number 1. What is my first tip? Realize that all graduates meet the selection criteria. Now, you might be thinking, James, that's a really strange thing to say. Realize that all graduates meet the selection criteria. The reason I want you to realize this is because a lot of graduates think, hey, I've just graduated in accounting. Here's a graduate vacancy for accountants. I'm going to apply. Hey, I didn't get the job. Why not? I'm a graduate and I applied for it. What you need to realize is that being a graduate doesn't mean you're going to get the graduate job. All it means is you're allowed to apply for the job. You're allowed to apply. You now meet the criteria for applying for the job. So one of the biggest mistakes graduates make is they think, oh, I've graduated. That's all I need to do to apply for graduate jobs. Absolutely not. You might think, but I meet the selection criteria. It says accounting graduates can apply. Yes, you do meet the selection criteria. But as we've seen, there's thousands. There's 2,000 applications for every 50 jobs. Everybody meets the selection criteria. So by graduating in accounting, you're allowed to apply for an accounting graduate position. But everybody else who's graduated from accounting is now at the same level as you. So you've kind of got to the level where you're allowed to apply. And so what I want you to start thinking is, okay, I'm now allowed to apply. I've got my graduate certificate, but all I can do so far is apply. How do I stand out amongst all of those applicants? That's what we're going to do today. So I want you to realize that I'm now allowed to apply, but just because I apply doesn't mean I'm going to get the job. So question, are you attending careers fairs or graduate expos? Now, I know that photo on the screen there. Let me zoom it in a little bit. That might be happening in Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Tassie. Probably not. Well, probably. It is not happening like that in person in Melbourne and Sydney at the moment, that's for sure. And a lot of the education providers, a lot of the universities and course providers have done a great job in moving their careers fairs or graduate expos online. And if it is being moved online, sometimes it's a little bit more challenging to meet people. But my question to you is, find out people's names. People absolutely love it when you use their names. So if you can include in your cover letter and during the interview the name of people you met, what they said and why you were impressed, it will really help. So let's go back to the careers fair. When you're walking around, if you're actually able to go to a careers fair and you can walk around a hall like this, you're going up to tables and you are talking to people. You are talking to people from companies who have graduate programs. What I'd really encourage you to do is to note down those names. If you talk to Barry at the RACV table, just take a note. Barry Jones, RACV. When it then comes time to applying for a job with RACV, applying for their graduate program, note in your cover letter, this is really important, note down in your cover letter that you met Barry Jones at the careers fair and you were really impressed with how he described the graduate program. If we use people's names, it creates a really great impression. So take notes. Take notes and then use it. Use it in your cover letter. Use it when you have a phone interview. Use it when you have a face-to-face interview. It helps to build a connection, and the people that you are reading that cover letter or the people that you are speaking to at interview will be impressed that you remembered and you used that person's name. It sounds like a very small thing, doesn't it? Using somebody's name, but it makes a big difference. Even more so if you meet Barry again at interview and you remember his name. People love it when they are remembered. All right, tip number 3. Here we go. Have an achievements-based resume. Now, hopefully you know what an achievements-based resume means. Hopefully you really understand what that means. If you don't know what that means, I'd really encourage you to go back onto our YouTube channel and watch our resume workshop. We'll also be running our resume workshop again in the first week of October. And we talk about having an achievements-based resume. This is particularly important when you are a graduate because, again, everybody's graduated. You are the same as everybody else. Your achievements on your resume will help you to stand out. So everyone's got the same qualifications, but it's your achievements. It's your achievements that can make all the difference. So you need to have an achievements-based resume. Your achievements could come from your study. If you've got a high distinction in your final year in any subject, put that down. Because if I'm looking at 2 resumes, both have accounting degrees. One says, I got a high distinction in accounting strategy in 2021. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this resume is a little bit better now. If this resume then suddenly has 2 high distinctions in the final year, it's getting up here. If this resume's got some achievements that they've created in the workplace, it's really, really good. You need to list your achievements. Your qualifications tell me what you're qualified in. Your work experience tells me what work you've done, but neither of them tell me how well you've done it. And I want to know how well you've done it, and your achievements will show that. So have an achievement-based resume. Alrighty, tip number 4. Show what you know about the industry and the company. This is where really good graduates start to really separate themselves out from the graduates who aren't putting in enough effort. When you are going for a graduate job, the organization wants to see that you have put in a lot of effort. You have put in a lot of time studying them as an organization. You understand their values, you understand their beliefs, you understand their core products, their messages, their markets, and you understand the industry. That is what the best graduates do. And you need to compete with the best graduates. So that's what you need to do. You need to show that you know. So it's not just good enough to know it. You've actually got to show it. Show it. Do as much research, or ideally do more research than the other candidates. Doing research does take a little bit of time, but guess what? Everybody can do research. It's an even playing field here. Excuse me. So as I said, company websites, careers pages. Press releases and annual reports are for bonus points. I absolutely love it when a candidate mentions to me something from the annual report. Now, annual reports are big, fat documents. You're not going to read the whole thing. It could be 200 pages long, but maybe you skim through and you just read a few pages. And from those pages, you are able to garner some information that you can then relay back in your interview. And if somebody in the interview mentions something from the annual report, I sit there and think, wow, these job seekers looked into the annual report. They must be really keen. They've done some great research here. They are really showing that they want to work for our company. So show. So the important message here is show what you know about the company. You won't know it unless you've done the work, but once you've done the work and done the research, you need to show it. Other sources include industry news, as you would know, websites, and also groups. Join groups on LinkedIn, join Reddit groups, join community groups that are passionate about the work that you want to do. I want to share a quote with you from very well-known Melbourne recruiter, Stefan Wheelak, who recruits for a software company called Explore. This is a post he did on LinkedIn, and I want to read it out to you because it really highlights what I'm trying to say here with the research. Credentials on your resume will get you that first interview, but it's not the key to your next position. Looking at the people we recently hired or who will be joining us shortly, there is one thing they all have in common. They were uber prepared. They have dug deep into what we do and stand for. They impressed us with their understanding of our business and the problems we are trying to solve. Yet not all of them were exactly what we were looking for. On the opposite side, I interviewed a candidate the other day who looked great on paper, but when I spoke with her, she had no idea what we were doing and said she'd only research a company once she lands an on site interview. Well, it's a Zoom interview these days. Though, if you haven't spent any time researching a company, you're missing the mark. Now, here's the key paragraph, the bottom one. I understand that doing research takes effort and you don't even know if it will pay off. However, that is exactly what other applicants do to get the job. And they're the ones you compete with right from the beginning of your application. So if you don't want to do the research, fine. I can't make you do it. You are going to be competing, though, with candidates who do a lot of research. So if you want to beat the candidates that do a lot of research, you've got to match it. And then you've got to show at interview that and in your application that you've done research. All right, tip number 5, research the recruitment process. So we don't want to just research the job. We want to research the recruitment process. James, what do you mean research the recruitment process? That kind of doesn't make sense. Well, find out what tests you'll be taking. One of the great things with looking for work in 2021 is you can Google nearly anything. So if you've been sent a particular test to do, I'd encourage you to Google it before you even start taking in the test. You might find some tips from other people that have completed that test before, which gives you a little bit of an insight into what to expect and how you can best prepare for that particular assessment. What assessments will you be asked to complete? Some organizations might invite you along and it might be for a half-day assessment, or it might be for a 30-minute interview. You need to understand what the organization is going to put you through in terms of their recruitment process. Graduate recruitment processes are the most thorough. They're the most thorough. They tend to have lots of different steps. There will always, not always, but there will nearly always be some type of online test. There will nearly always be several face-to-face assessments. Some of them might be individual. Some of them might be in a group that go for 3 or 4 hours. They might be off-site. You might be taken to a special location for a day. But find out what previous candidates have to say. Whether it's a site like Glassdoor or something else, you can get some insight. And if you can get some insight, that can just help prepare you for what to expect. And if you know what to expect, then you can practice and prepare. Tip number 6. This is so simple. This will not be new news to you, but not a lot of people do it. Practicing your interview technique is the only way it's going to get better. So if you are worried that your interview technique is no good, if you are worried that I can't answer questions well at interview, well, guess what? If you don't practice, you're going to stay rubbish. So you need to practice. That's the only way it's going to get better. If you were in our sessions last week, we ran 2 workshops on job interview preparation. One was called Interview Preparation and Performance. The other one was called How to Give Great Answers to Interview Questions. Jump on our YouTube channel and watch those. We'll be running those workshops or conducting those workshops again live in a couple of weeks' time. But you've got to practice. You've got to find somebody that can ask you interview questions. You've got to find somebody that will ask you interview questions you don't want to answer. Because what you need to do is practice how to answer those questions. Because at interview, you don't want to be asked a question that you don't know the answer for. Because that's what will trip you up. So how are you going to get better at interviewing technique? Practice. If you're not going to practice, you're not going to get any better. I know it sounds really harsh and you're like, I don't want to practice. Well, guess what? If you don't practice, you're not getting any better. All right, question. Who would you rather work with? You've got 2 choices here. It's quiz time. Someone likable, somebody unlikable. It's obvious, isn't it? We all want to work with someone likable. I'm going to click this button here. So tip number 7 is be likable. Be likable. Now, I know this doesn't sound very politically correct, especially in 2021, but being likable will really help you get the job. It's a really competitive process. You've graduated. You've got good scores. You've got good experience. So have hundreds of other candidates. When we're lining everybody up and it's coming to the pointy end, having been likable throughout the recruitment process might make enough of a difference that you get selected over somebody else. It will increase your chances of getting the job. Tip number 8, ask great questions. Often in an interview, at the end of the interview, you will have an opportunity when the interviewer says, have you got anything you would like to ask me? Now, a lot of candidates think, oh, if I think of something, I'll ask, but I've read so much, I think I know everything. Wrong. This is your chance to shine. This is the only part of the interview process where you actually get to control what's being spoken about here. So you can ask some great questions that actually highlight the research that you've done. So don't let this opportunity pass you by. You can stand out here. So again, going back to that research that we've done, write down 5 or 6 questions. Write down 5 or 6 questions and take them along to interview. You can do that. You wouldn't ask 6 questions, but the reason I want you to write down that many is maybe 2 or 3 of them actually get answered throughout the interview. So if you turn up with 3 questions and they've all been answered, you look down, you're like, oh, I haven't got any new questions here. But if you've written down 6 questions, you can find a couple there. But write down questions that show the research. So if somebody starts off, James, I read in the annual report this, and I'd like to know this. I'm like, wow, this candidate's read the annual report. So work some questions in that really help to highlight the research that you've done. It will really help you stand out. Tip number 9, we're motoring through them now. Positive, responsive communication. As a recruiter that is speaking to candidates every day, it is amazing how many candidates communicate poorly. So first of all, when you are applying for jobs, answer the phone in a positive and professional manner. You are going to start getting unknown numbers, or if somebody calls and it says private number, unknown number, or it's a number you don't recognize, or even if it is a number you might recognize, think, this could be about a job. Answer the phone in a positive way. You must have an active voicemail. And your voicemail must be empty so that people can leave you a message. And you need to call back within 24 hours unless it's impossible for you to do so. So communicate positively on the phone. Show interest in the person that you're meeting. So I love it when a candidate comes to meet with me and they've checked out my LinkedIn profile and maybe they say, hey, James, I read your article recently on writing a great resume. I really enjoyed it. I think, oh, that's nice of you to say. Oh, thank you. I can't help it. It's a compliment. I like receiving compliments. It also shows me, though, that the candidate's really doing some good research here. And they're not just researching the job. They're not just researching the company. They're not just researching the recruitment process, but they're looking into who they're actually meeting and they're showing some interest. So you can do the same. You can look up most of the time who you're meeting. You'll often have their name in advance. You can find them on the LinkedIn most of the time. Ask for honest feedback and really mean it. So when you get an interview and you standing up at the end, there's nothing wrong with actually saying, can you share any feedback with me on how I've performed today? What you're showing there is that you're open to feedback. Now, they might say, no, I'm not allowed to share that with you yet. That's fine. Don't worry about it. They say that. But if they do, you're going to get some great feedback. But you're also showing, again, a high level of interest. And have a thankful attitude. So smile. Thank the person at the end of the interview. Just say, thanks very much for taking the time to meet with me. You're super busy. I really, really appreciate it. But again, it comes back to this likability thing. If 5 candidates are all equal for getting the job, but one candidate was just a little bit happier and they were nicer to deal with, they were more positive, they were more responsive, they will probably be the ones that get the job. Tip number 10, become a video interview pro. So particularly again in Melbourne and Sydney, but this has been happening in the graduate recruitment process for years, video interviews play an absolutely vital role. So I want to play a video for you now that's pre-recorded, and then it will come back to me. Hi job seekers, James here from The Candidate Coach. One of the most common questions we've been receiving lately is around how to best prepare for a video interview. Due to the circumstances over the last 12 to 18 months, video interviews have become the most common way of meeting a candidate, replacing the in-person, face-to-face interview. So here are my top tips for what you need to do to make sure you are best prepared and presenting yourself as well as you possibly can when your interview is over video. So there's 4 main things that you really need to consider. The first thing is camera height. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of people make, is getting the height of their camera wrong. If you've got a laptop, for example, that is sitting on a desk, you need to lift it up. The camera should always be at eye height. You want to imagine the lens of a camera is the eyeball of a person. So if you are looking down at your laptop or your phone, it's going to look back up your nose. So keep the camera positioned at eye height. One of the great ways to do that is to buy a tripod, something like this. So if you don't have a tripod, it's well worth going out and spending the money. And here's another one that I've got here. This one in particular I find to be really, really good. These have both got lights which help, but this one here, you can adjust it to a full standing height if you like. And it's available for not much money from a retail store. The second thing that is really important is the lighting. So having the light shining on your face. You don't want to have light shining from behind you because that creates a lot of glare. So have the light shining on your face, sit with a window facing you so that you are looking nice and clear on camera. The third thing is audio. You need to be in a nice quiet space so your voice comes across clearly, so that you don't have to yell, so that the sound is not distorted. If you are using a laptop, make sure you check about the sound direction. Some microphones only record from directly in front, and if you tilt your head sideways, the audio quality can go down quite significantly. And the fourth thing is, remember to show some personality with video interviewing. A lot of people speak to a camera in a different way that they speak to a person. So again, look at the lens of the camera and imagine you're speaking to a person. Smile, talk with your hands if that's what you do, but don't look around the room. If you're nervous, don't look down at your hands. Look at the camera and give an answer as if you were giving it to a person. This can be challenging, particularly if you are being asked to record answers and there's not actually a person that you are speaking to, but personality definitely comes through on video, so make sure you show yours. And with everything, practice. If you're not sure how you're going to present, or you think, I don't think this is going to work really well, set up your camera, hit record, and just speak to the camera. Talk, see how you look, and practice several times. This is going to be the new norm, or not the new norm, it is the norm for quite some time now, so it's really important that you understand how to best prepare for video interviewing. Good luck. Fantastic. So thanks very much for watching that video. And that is such an important tip for all of you graduates out there. Alrighty, tip 11, which is our final tip. Our final tip for today, and it's also a really important tip. Missing out isn't the end of the world. Missing out isn't the end of the world. You have come so far with your studies, and when you apply for a graduate role, it feels like you have worked everything up to this point in time. And so missing out on a graduate job can kind of make it feel like, wow, what was all that for? But as somebody who's worked in recruitment for 15 years, missing out on a graduate job, yes, might be disappointing at the time, but there are a million other paths to get your career going. I applied for lots of graduate jobs. When I graduated in 2005, I didn't get one. And I was really disappointed at the time. And I thought, how do I get my career going from here? 6 months later, I'd been working for 5 months, and I thought, what was I worrying about? So do your best. Hope to land a graduate job. As we've shown, the numbers actually count against you. We think you can do it, but we don't want you to fall into a heap if you don't get the job. Alrighty, so just a reminder about our upcoming workshop. So we're getting towards the end of September now. We're down here at How to Land a Graduate Job today. Next Wednesday, join us next Wednesday at 10 a.m. because we end every month with our Job Seeker Masterclass, as you can see up the top here. Wednesday 29th. So wherever you're watching this workshop today, this is our masterclass goes for up to 2 hours, depending on how many people attend and how many questions. And we basically go through everything. So we touch on everything we've done over the course of the month. Resumes, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, interview tips, all the different bits and pieces. It's a great workshop to attend, whether you've missed all of our other ones throughout the month or you've attended them all. Come along next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And just a reminder, if you're still wanting more assistance of all the resources that are available to you on your candidate coaching platform where you're watching this now. So you've got access to video coaching, and you've got 12 episodes there that you can watch. We've got downloadable resume and cover letter templates for you, as well as interview questions, online tests that you can take right now and get your results. We've got checklists to download to make sure that you're best prepared. We've got articles for you to read, specific advice for executive job seekers, as well as mental health support, and all of our live upcoming workshops. As I mentioned, we've got one more left for September, and then we'll be running 8 again in October. All of this is provided to you for free. Would love to get your feedback. So I'm just going to pop into the chat box now a link for you to give us some feedback. It's just a little 2-minute survey, but it really helps us to understand what you got out of today's workshop. We ask you what you liked about it, and we also would like to hear from you on other topics. What are some of the other topics that you would like to have us run workshops on? And I'll also include just a link there to make sure you follow our LinkedIn page, because we put a lot of content, daily updates onto our LinkedIn page. We share a lot of great resources for job seekers. But before we go, we always conclude our workshops with a video here on how to make sure you're looking after your mental health as a job seeker, because sometimes when you are looking for work, and particularly as a graduate, it can be a stressful time. So we'll conclude with this video. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you for our job seeking workshop next week. Bye-bye for now.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. A lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog, and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those, and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and well-being might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, you know, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself, because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space, and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.